So hello there, friends. So today we're going to be talking about how to be an upholstery professional. So here we go. If you stick around to the end, which is only a couple minutes from now, okay, I'm going to tell you and give you the best advice. This is the best advice that you'll be able to take with you for the whole rest of your life. So stick around for that. So I get a lot of questions in the comments of if I know any schools that people can go to learn upholstery, and or if I know of any apprenticeships. So, or they'll say, should I be an apprentice? Should I work for free for somebody so that way I can learn something? And I might shock you. What am I going to answer to that? Okay, the answer is I wouldn't do it. First of all, if you're going to go to school, how much are you going to pay to learn something that you're going to be doing anyway? Besides taking forever to learn how to do something, and that maybe even the teacher is not that interested in teaching you, maybe the other students are disruptive and you're not learning, and that could be holding you back. I could even give you an example. Decades ago, okay, I'm revealing my age. Anyway, decades ago, I had a young guy come up to me and he's holding a piece of paper in front of him, and it's a diploma. He says, I just graduated from upholstery school from, I'm going to say it sounds like Myotech. I guess it's a pretty popular school to go to. Anyway, he was really proud of his certificate and he's holding it up to me and he's like, yeah, I can get a job anywhere, right? So he's showing me this certificate and I couldn't help myself, but I just kind of started laughing a little bit. He's like looking at me and he's like, why are you laughing? And I said, well, don't you realize, I guess you don't realize, but I'm telling you guys right now, upholstery, just like probably a lot of other professions, okay, is really only about 10% knowledge. Can you believe that? Everything that you're going to do is 10% knowledge in upholstery, even after decades of doing this. And you're going to say, well, how could that be? Okay, the only reason it's 10% here is because 90% here is technique. Okay, so now technique is something that you learn over time. Okay, the only way you learn a technique is by doing. Okay, so what you're doing is you're doing some kind of action, whether it be sewing, whether it be cutting something up with your scissors, or knowing how much to cut or where to cut, uh, with what kind of tool to cut. Okay, all of that is technique. You know, we all make our mistakes. Everybody makes their mistakes. But you know what? Every time you make that mistake, what are you doing? You're learning something new. I can't imagine how much it would cost to go to a school to learn something like that. The way I look at it is if you're in structured learning, okay, you're there every Wednesday at 5 o'clock, right? So you're there for 2 hours. Okay, so you're maybe get a good hour of learning in 1 week. Okay, now you're really limiting yourself to what you're learning. Okay, but if you went and you grabbed your own scissors on your own table, on your own sewing machine, and you can sit there anytime you want, hours at a day at a time if you want. Or, you know, in the middle of the night, you wake up and you have an idea and you want to try something new, you go jump on your sewing machine. Now that's learning. I would say to grab every opportunity you can. Okay, if you see an opening anywhere, okay, your mom's kitchen chair needs a new cushion cover. Go and grab it and do it. Okay, that's going to give you some experience. Everything you do is going to give you experience. Okay, you're talking to your neighbor. Your neighbor has his golf cart seat needs to be done. Okay, tell him you'll do it for him, you know, and you'll give him this really good price, right? Okay, this is advice for people just starting out. Don't get me wrong. If you have experience, you're going to want to get all the money in the world, right? And I'm not saying that just because you're beginning that you have to just make a little bit of money to get by and that you're fine with that or whatever. But you know what? There is a such thing as getting your foot in the door, getting that experience under your belt. And that's one way to do it is just seek it out. Try to find jobs that you can do for anybody. Just let them know, hey, I'm just starting out. Don't expect too much, but I'd like to be compensated for what I'm doing. Material costs is a must. One thing that you're going to find out is if people know that you're really trying to learn something and that you're trying to make a living for yourself, for you and your family, people are always willing to help you, especially the older guys, right? They'll say, oh, yeah, I need my boat seats done. Can you help me with that? And you're like, yeah, maybe. I've never done that before, but I've done something similar. If you'll just be patient with me and give me that job, I'll help you out. And they're like all for it. They're like 100% in already, right? Because they're probably thinking, well, I'm going to get a good deal or whatever. That's another way of getting it done. So I've got to say that when I first started out 43 years ago, I started out with almost no guidance. I was 15 years old at the time. I had an uncle that had an upholstery shop, and I used to go to work for him after school. My first upholstery job was my first car, Mustang, of course, right? Just like everybody else. So anyway, I did the seats on this car, and they came out beautiful. They're so beautiful. Okay, but after a while, I realized that some of the panels were pulling apart and some of the stitching was coming loose. And I figured it out. Okay, nobody ever taught me how to lock a stitch. Okay, my uncle, he didn't teach me that much. I think because maybe he thought I'd be a future competitor. So anyway, he didn't teach me how to do one of the most basic things, locking a stitch. But you know what? Because of that mistake, I'll tell you what, I never did that again, right? And this is how we learn. We make a mistake, we never make that mistake again. One thing I learned over the years is you know how good you are when you know how to fix your own mistakes. Okay, how do you like that one? Write it down there in the comments. So what I mean by that is if you're working for somebody or if you're in a school or if you're in an apprenticeship, okay, you feel like you can't get something done or you make some mistake, what are you going to do? You're going to go to somebody, right? So they can fix the mistake for you. Okay? Don't do that. If we make a mistake, what we're going to do is we're going to take it apart, okay? Because we know what we did, we know what went wrong. So we go back and we fix it. And you know what? When you can fix your own mistake, you're going to be so proud of yourself because you did it. You didn't have to rely on somebody else to help you. Okay, here comes another quote. Okay, every time you touch something, you're going to learn something. Okay, so grab yourself a piece of fabric, grab yourself a piece of vinyl, grab yourself a piece of leather. Okay, and pick it up, pull on it. Try to stretch the vinyl, try to stretch the leather, and you're going to see that each one of these different materials is going to have a different characteristic. Okay, so that's going to affect the way you sew it because like leather is an example. Okay, it's going to stretch a lot more than say vinyl will. Okay, and so it's kind of like sewing on a rubber band, okay, because it could stretch. Okay, where fabric most likely won't stretch, although there are some stretchable fabrics. But if you have something that's thicker, that's got a heavy backing, it's not going to stretch at all. Okay, so that's going to be a different characteristic when you're stitching. But you know what? You get to identify that by doing what? By doing. Okay, so the only way you're going to learn this, that's where 90% of technique comes in. The only way you're going to learn this is by actually doing it. Ready for another famous quote of mine, I guess? I never heard anybody else say this. The second one always turns out better than the first one. Okay, the third one always turns out better than the second one. You know why? Because by the time you're on the third one, you found out what really works. You know what makes it easier, what makes it more efficient, which speeds up the process, which makes it look much better than the one that you did before. And you know what? By the fourth one, it's going to look better than all the other ones combined. Okay, so you're going to hide the first one, right? You're going to show the fourth one, right? So I know a lot of you guys and gals have an interest in learning upholstery because I get it all the time in comments. I have thousands and thousands of comments through all of my videos. Even I get comments that they're not even related to the video. Okay, people ask me questions, and you know what? I answer every single one of them. If you go through my comments, you'll see they're all answered. And I would encourage you to do that right now. You have a question, go down to the comments. Okay, and don't forget to like this video, okay, before you comment. So anyway, when you go to comment, just ask me your question. I'd be happy to answer it. Just like I do everybody else, I'll do it for you. And what do I always say in the comments? Learning is doing. So anyway, like I was saying,